Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
Very well. Bruce, that was a great game by the Oilers.
Enjoyed it?
It was two comebacks in the game from down, and they beat the hated Minnesota Wild. And pretty sweet, I have to say.
Come back from the traditional 0-2 deficit in the first period.
Jeez. Didn't start out great.
Third time in 4 games they faced that hole in the first sort of 10 minutes of the game or 15 minutes.
Well, at least Calvin Pickard didn't let in the second shot tonight, Bruce.
Yeah, no, first one. I'm going to tell. I have to research that and see how bad it is, but I'm willing to. Well, I don't bet, but I'm willing to predict that in over half of his starts, he's given up a goal on one of the first 2 shots. So, anyway,
yeah.
Let's see. But it's not how you start the game, right? It's how you finish it. Last time we saw him, he had a real brutal first part of the game, and then he finished it with 4 big saves in the 60th minute on a 4v6 power play to preserve a 4-3 win.
Yeah, I was starting to think
he preserved a 5-3 win. So it doesn't look great on the stats and the goals against and stuff, but
yeah, I was starting to think, what's up with this guy after those first 2 goals? Like, is he going to get it together?
All over the place, eh?
Yeah. But he did pretty well in the end there. All right, Bruce, let's get at it. 2 good things, 2 bad things, 2 numbers. What's your good thing?
Yeah, well, my good thing is Cal Pickard.
Yeah.
And he made, by our count, David, 20 grade A shots against, 9 of which was 5 alarm.
Yeah.
And our own crude formula for expected goals is 1 in every 3 5 alarms goes in, and 1 of every 5 of the other ones that we count goes in. And you do the math on that, and that's 5.2 expected goals today. Now, it's way more than natural stat trick had, but I would suggest they undervalued some of those slams that Minnesota had on net from close range, intermediate range. Man, Pickard made a lot of good saves in this game. And I thought Minnesota controlled Edmonton in Edmonton's end. And that actually was a little bit worrisome to me how the Oilers struggled to recover the puck, and then if they did recover, get the damn thing over the blue line, and then get it deep and make a change. And they struggled in those aspects. But Pickard was, I bet you we'll see a picture of him on the Oilers feed with him wearing the hard hat or the golden feather or whatever the hell it is that they give to them. They give one. There's one for the plumber and one for the painter. That's what they did last year, and it's that sort of thing. It's sort of a hard hat award, and then there's an artist award.
Isn't it a golden fleece?
Yeah.
What was the golden fleece? Is it a chalice? Is that a chalice?
Yeah, that's a good question. Good question. That sort of stuff you usually know, David. You're good on the mythology and history stuff.
I think it might be a challenge, but a chalice, like a cup, but I'm not exactly sure. He stole the game, Bruce. He stole the
pretty much, yeah. By our counts, absolutely. What we go through the grade A's again? You got the numbers there.
20 to 11 for the Wild, and then the subset of 5 alarm shots was 10 to 5.
10
to 6.
10 to 6. Okay.
Or maybe it's
9 to 6.
Maybe it's 9. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, he absolutely flat out robbed Joel Eriksson Ek on a couple of occasions that were just amazing stops on what looked like slam dunks. Stopped a 2-on-0 breakaway in the first minute of the second period when 2 Oilers defenseman made a line change before the forward got the puck in, and then the forward failed to get the puck in, and the next thing you know, it's off to the races 2-on-0, and somehow Pickard came up with that. That was a fantastic save. and he made quite a number of saves that I sort of had counted up to be goals, and he kicked them. Like, it seemed to keep happening. The Oilers would fail to get the puck out, and within 2 seconds or maybe 4 seconds, they'd be slamming another dangerous shot on net. Like, they just didn't waste time getting the puck back into the slot. And Edmonton was a little bit slow in defensive coverage, and I think you'll talk about that more in your bad thing. I'm going to talk about my good thing, which, despite the 3 goals against and the fairly iffy start, because of course Pickard let in his first shot, and then his second and third shots came after he came out of the net to gather a puck that came in, to the top of the face-off circle, and he made a not good pass into the skates of the referee, which is, I think, what stopped it up. But I honestly don't think that puck would have got out, because he shot it too sideways. He got to angle it up the ice to get it over the blue line. And anyway, so Minnesota came out with it, and Pickard, while scrambling back towards his net, managed to make 2 stops. And so that kept it 1-0. And even then, they popped in the second goal. And I'm going, well, for all I was reading and writing about Minnesota missing their top 3 defensemen and top scorer tonight, they looked like the hungrier team in this game. But Pickard looked like a hungry goalie, and he responded to this challenge, and it was a challenge. This was a game, like you say. I mean, our stats say it's a goalie stolen win, and that's how I saw it as well.
Yeah, Hyman scored a big goal there. That was huge, obviously.
Yeah.
And it was going to be my good thing, but in the end, my good thing is Minnesota takes the lead again in the second period, up 3-2. But my good thing is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. First of all, on the Oilers tying goal in the first period, the 2-2 goal on the power play, he made a brilliant slap pass over to McDavid, who kind of one-timed it in the net. It was just a great skill play by Nugent-Hopkins and by McDavid on the goal. From those 2 players. But what really impressed me, Bruce, and what was really needed, I mean, the top line, you can count on them for a lot, but you can't count on them to win every game for you. No. You need the other lines to score. And that's what happened tonight. And the third goal by the Oilers, the tying goal, fairly late in the second, which is always a killer, that late goal in the second. This was with 6 minutes left, so not that late, but late enough. It was a great hustle play by the forward line of Podkolzin, Nugent-Hopkins, and Arvidsson. Their passes were all a little bit off, but they were kind of cycling the puck kind of a fractured manner on the left-hand wall of the Wild defensive zone. Podkolzin brought it in there, and they're passing it around, and their passes aren't quite hitting, but they're really working hard. And then Kulak comes in and makes a really good pinch to keep it in. It finally, Arvidsson finally, I think, puts it back to the point. And from that scrum that's been going on for about 8 or 9 seconds, and Kulak whips it over to Emberson, who puts it on net, and then Nugent-Hopkins on a flyby makes a great tip, and it's in the net. So it's the Californian. It is a great way to score a goal. I think it's a bit of a backbreaker, the Californian, for other teams when a team manufactures a goal out of not that threatening a situation. That's hard to take for another team. I think it gets to that team, the opposition, somewhat psychologically. And of course, the Californian is named after the great combination of mainly of Brent Burns shooting it at net and Joe Pavelski tipping it in. Those Californian teams of the 2010s were brilliant at that kind of goal, manufacturing that kind of goal. The Oilers were brilliant at it tonight. That was a fantastic hard work hustle goal with a great bit of skill at the end by Nugent-Hopkins to tip it in.
Yeah, right out of the air. Like, that thing was probably 2.5 feet off the ice.
Yeah.
And he tipped it up and over Gustafsson's shoulder, right under the crossbar. And really perfectly placed tip, as Louis pointed out. And he was right. It was. Yeah. And as you pointed out, that snap pass across the slot to McDavid on the power play. Wow. Like that. I thought it was McDavid making the pass, and then I saw it was McDavid shooting the puck in the net. So that must be somebody else wearing 90 something. And process of elimination had to be Nugent. Podkolzin was snapping passes around a little bit tonight too, David. That whole line, and this was a game where Oilers early went to the stacked first line of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman. They engineered the quick turnaround from 0-2 down late in the first to tied by the first Zamboni. But after that, it was the second line of Nuge filling in for Draisaitl in the middle of the ice between Podkolzin and Arvidsson. I thought all three of them were just fine.
Yeah, Podkolzin got the next goal, like the winning goal.
Yeah.
Throwing it hard at the net.
Bounce, and Nurse might have scored if the guy hadn't desperately tried to deflect it away from him.
Yeah.
That's that Nurse. All we could do is credit him with our old favorite, the hard charge. And I don't think I've ever seen a better example of that. Holy moly.
He went in hard. They were mad too. Oh, they were mad. The guy was probably mad because he was mad because he put the puck in the net, but he's probably mad that Nurse also went so hard at their goalie. We'll get into the madness a little bit later in the podcast.
In the net first before Nurse ever got there.
Fortunately
for that, yeah.
It wouldn't have counted, obviously, if it had come in that collision. I don't think.
Probably not.
Bruce, what's your bad thing?
Yeah, I'm kind of vacillating between the penalty killing and the actual penalties. One in particular that put them short, and I think I will go with the penalty because they got burned. The Oilers took a penalty early, and they got burned on the power play within. Let's see, 1:58, Nurse kicks a penalty, 3:02, they score. Then Janmark takes a penalty, and they somehow kill it off, but they kill it off by, Pickard. And Minnesota just had constant pressure. They could never get the puck out. And it just was, are we going to survive, this 2-minute fire drill or not? And somehow they did. And then against that backdrop, already trailing 1-0, having taken the first two penalties, and Josh Brown takes a big hit behind Edmonton's net. And he, as the play goes up the ice on what appears to me to be an odd man rush for the Oilers, and the guy down at the other end should be able to see what's going on up the ice, but he was too busy seeing red, I think, because he just went after the Minnesota dude and popped him a punch, trying to get him to go in the fight. And the same thing that Perry did a couple of games back. Remember when he goaded the guy and taking the extra penalty, and Brown got the extra penalty, and he deserved it because the other guy, didn't retaliate.
He did not.
It's not like they both were going at it and the ref picked one of them out. It was like Brown punched the guy in the head. It was a pretty easy call. So Brown goes into the box, and I'm just shaking my head saying the chances of them killing this one off are not good. And sure enough, that one only lasted from 15:04 to 16:11. So again, about 1 minute. And then they were able to slam another one in, and Brown took the skate of shame. And I will say this, his teammates had his back because they came right back and scored on the next play.
Yeah.
And then they drew their one and only power play of the night and made that count right away to tie it up. And whether they were having Josh Brown's back specifically because it motivated them or just that's the way things rolled, but Brown's mistake was ameliorated from the whole deficit was within 2 minutes. Like they scored at 16:11, Edmonton scored at 16:32 and 18:28, and it was 2-2.
I didn't particularly like Brown's penalty. I didn't like Nurse's penalty either. I thought it was a lazy penalty where he was letting his stick do the work instead of his feet. And it was an obvious penalty. Like he needed, he hooked that guy. He got his stick on him. So you can't do that.
He did prevent a scoring
chance.
Yeah,
well, that's true.
But you're right.
The penalty had happened earlier, actually, behind the net.
He got caught out and didn't get good body position.
I could be incorrect, but I'm going to guess the arm of the ref was up before the scoring chance, and I might be incorrect about that. Bruce, my bad thing.
Nurse foresaw the scoring chance coming.
Possibly. My bad thing, Bruce, was the play of the line of Adam Henrique, Matthias Janmark, and Connor Brown. And I've touted them in the past as a line that I think, well, they were a really good line in the playoffs last year. They got the job done. Most Oiler fans were very happy when all three of those players who could have gone elsewhere this summer came back. The vast majority, I'm going to say, of Oiler fans were happy about that. Not everybody, but I think, I know I was, and because I thought, okay, here's a checking line. Here's a line you can use as a shutdown line. And they got, it was more like a stomped down line tonight, Bruce. The line of Matt Boldy, Marcus Rossi, and Matt Zuccarello, who are all three highly skilled and quick players. Really they are fast and they are quick. They ate that line up tonight. And like, we don't track who got the Wild grade A shots. We just track the grade A shots from the Wild, and we track who makes mistakes on them. I do know this, though, that both Janmark and Henrique both made 3 mistakes on grade A shots against at even strength, which is a really high total for a forward. They were out against the Boldy line about 7 minutes each. Against the Boldy line. They were outshot 2 shots for the Henrique line, 6 shots against. And I'm going to say 4 or 5 of those shots were probably 5 alarm shots. They were whipping that puck around, and they were exploiting that line. And I think that line can do better if they play with more intensity. I don't think they realized maybe what they were up against tonight. Maybe they're thinking Kaprizov's out, so it's not going to be so bad. Well, it was worse. It was a really hard night for those guys. And Janmark, I mean, he's been the Oilers' best defensive forward all year, but not tonight. And Henrique was struggling with the speed of the opposition attack, and it wasn't. It was a little bit discouraging, Bruce. I'll say that.
He looked noticeably slow to my eyes tonight, Henrique. And it cost him in the offensive zone 2 times where it looked like he had a really good scoring chance, and he was just a split second too slow to react to his own chance, and it was gone. And his shot was smothered when it looked like he should have a good shot from the slot. And he's 34 years old now?
Yeah.
And some nights he's got it and he's all over it. Like that Boston game, he was fantastic, for example. But other nights he's just a step behind or just a split second late reacting, and tonight was kind of one of those nights. Not as bad as we've seen a couple other times, but second best, and his line was second best on the ice for much of the game. And they did well to get away with 0-0 on the score sheet, but they can thank their buddy Cal Pickard. Tonight they should each buy him a beer.
Not too many beers.
Well, Cal won't play again now until next week.
That's true. That's true. I don't know how much these athletes drink anymore, Bruce. I'd be surprised if they drink that much.
Yeah, no, probably not. Maybe.
Yeah, they're on the alcohol.
One each for the next 3 nighs, Wally.
Some of them are probably club alcohol is poison. Yeah. They will not, they probably.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some like total body freaks that don't want.
Oh yeah, I think a higher number than ever before, and it might be like half of them even. But I don't know about that. Yeah. They are young guys with high testosterone too. The good thing about older players is, in the regular season, they're going to have these inconsistencies, but they are able to crank it up. Generally speaking, in the playoffs. They have the mental strength to do that, and I think we will see this line get it together in the playoffs. They'll need to get it together, and I think we will. I think we'll all see all 3 of these guys crank it up again and really play well in the playoffs. So, Bruce, your numero.
Oh yeah, My number for tonight is, let's see if they've updated it just for fun. I can then actually read it. Yes. 1,044 is my number. That's the briefly current career total of points by Connor McDavid. And playing in his 10th season, which is kind of significant in terms of where he compares to the other guys on this list, which is the Oilers' all-time scoring leaders. And just last week, McDavid passed Mark Messier, who had 1,034 career points. He, of course, played 12 years in Edmonton to accumulate that total. Tonight, he passed the next guy just ahead of Messier, Jari Kurri, who scored 1,043 points in just 10 seasons. He was from Edmonton from 1980 to 90. And in that time, he played 754 games, 75 a year, 474 goals, 569 assists, 1,043 points, and plus 373. Jari Kurri, what a fantastic player Jari Kurri was. I don't think he ever really got his due because the focus was ever so much on Gretzky. And of course, if Kurri scored often, it was Gretzky who set him up. But the chemistry between the two was just phenomenal. So anyway, now we have McDavid has passed Kurri in 686 games. So it took him 68 fewer games in a lower scoring era to achieve not the goals total just yet, and that's going to take him 3 more years, but the points total already. And that puts Connor second now all time in the list of Oilers scorers. And he's just a mere now 625 points behind Wayne Gretzky, who in 9 years of NHL years scored 1,669 points with a plus 553. And I mean, his numbers are so often. McDavid, like you think, well, he's a distant second, but you look around the league, you won't find many guys over those years that were close to doing the accomplishments that Gretzky did. Some are a little closer in points because they played in the same era as he did. Mm-hmm. But not many guys won 5 scoring titles, right? And the great Connor McDavid has done that. And now tonight he's passed the great Jari Kurri with a 2-goal, 1-assist performance, and just another terrific night from a wonderful player. And it's a nice milestone to get in a second, David. When we're doing, I'm predicting we'll talk in about maybe 5-6 more years about the night that Connor gets number 1,670 and takes over top spot on this list. But it's going to be a while.
Well, the future is promised to no one, not even.
No, it's not.
Especially
not
NHL players. Not to us. And in terms of
I'm thinking
NHL,
6 years. That's a long time, Bruce.
That is. Hey, well, Bruce, your near consecutive walking streak, I saw you post today, and I just want to compliment you, Bruce. Oh, that is fantastic, and it's good you're telling other people that you're out there doing that every day. I think it's inspirational to people to see what other people are up to. That people are taking care of themselves, and I think COVID had a big impact on all of us. It did on me. And
that's what actually started me walking that pumped me up to make sure it was at least an hour a day just to get me out of the frickin' house. Because we were everybody was in lockdown mode, and I thought, well, I can go out and walk by myself around St. Albert, and there's nobody else even out there. So that's when I bumped it up to an hour. And other than I got sick once in December of 22, and I was down and out for a week. But I had a 3-year run before that, and then I resolved that I needed to just get back on the horse and get going again. And I wouldn't miss it. It's a highlight, or it's a focus point of every day.
It is a highlight, like getting out and exercising and doing stuff. And I usually do something every day. So once you get used to it, it becomes very addictive. And once you get older, you realize, okay, it's you've got to. There's only one way you're going to go if you don't, and that's down. And there's no kidding yourself about it anymore when you get over 60. So just got
you got to be smart about it. I mean, if I fall and break my leg, my streak's over. Right? So when it's icy, I will walk in the gym, for instance, rather than go outside. But my first best choice is to walk outside with the fresh air and the scenery and the the variety of places I can go and stuff, as opposed to just doing circles. And so today, for instance, got back outside and really enjoyed my walk. I always see people with dogs. I don't have a dog, but I look at people with dogs and I say, all you people probably walk every single day with your dog.
Yeah, it's a good way to get out. It's a weird time to think about that COVID time, kind of like half dream, half nightmare. It was this very
30,
strange,
70.
very strange time. I mean, people throughout human history have been through much stranger times, obviously, right? Way stranger times than we went through, but it was a little taste for us of the strangeness of strange times.
Some people leave underground because bombs are dropped. I mean,
Exactly.
there's a lot of horrible
Yes.
things that can happen.
We've had
in this
nothing
world. We've
comparatively.
never had to deal with that.
Thank goodness, and fingers crossed. All right. My number, Bruce, is 3,059. And I was watching, which one? Is it Nick Foligno? No, it's Marcus Foligno on the team, on the Wild. And I just was thinking about his dad, Nick Foligno, who was such a fantastic hockey player.
Mike, his dad.
Excuse me, Mike, his dad. Yeah, I always get him confused. Mike, his dad, was such a fantastic hockey player for the Buffalo Sabres. And he was very skilled. He was kind of like, he wasn't dirty like Matthew Tkachuk, but he was highly skilled.
He was tough.
He was really tough, and he was really highly skilled. So 3,059 is the combined regular season games of the Folignos. Of Mike at 1,018. Nick, his eldest son, at 1,198. And Marcus now at 843.
Ooh, so he might get there too, eh?
Probably he'll get to 1,000 as well. Nick's a possible pickup for the Oilers at the trade deadline, I'm going to suggest. He's a big, tough forward who might help on the fourth line come playoff time. So he's with Chicago. He earns too much, though, probably. I think he earns, they'd have to retain. He earns 4.5 million, I think, next year as well, or 4 million next year, something like that. So they'd have to retain half, and even that would probably be too much for that. So It's unlikely. But they're all strong two-way hockey players. Mike is the best of them. Mike, the dad, was the best of them. He just had a level of skill which was really impressive. But the other ones are both really good hockey players as well, and they're hard-nosed, honest hockey players, two-way hockey players, and I admire the whole family. And I bring it up because they don't get, in terms of hockey families, they don't get a lot of attention. There's lots of hockey families, interesting, isn't there? But
Hughes,
right now,
But some, even the father and son ones, there are others that get
the Hulls, the Richards,
Sutters.
the Sutters,
so many.
The Mahovliches. Amazing, actually, how many famous, the Espositos, which was the weirdest one because there was a goalie and a center, and they were kind of both the best at their position for some amount of time in the NHL.
Extended period.
Yeah.
Mike Foligno, I always liked, Bentleys. I always liked Mike Foligno. He was the third overall pick in the 1979 draft, which is arguably the greatest draft in NHL history.
Yes.
It was the year where they had 2 years. They combined 19 and 20-year-olds. And they also permitted some of the young players that had been in the WHA the year before and had a year of pro experience under their belt to be eligible for that draft. And in that draft, all of Rob Ramage first overall, Mike Gartner fourth, Rick Vaive fifth, Craig Hartsburg sixth, and Michel Goulet 20th. Those were all first-round picks that played in the WHA. And we saw him play here in Edmonton in 78, 79. I know I did. I had seen tickets. I saw all those guys. Mike Foligno wasn't one of those players. He played junior, but he was a high pick. And it just so happened that he was with Detroit. And Detroit was Edmonton's first ever opponent when they played their first ever NHL game, which for me was my first ever NHL game, my 24th birthday. And I'd never been to a game in another city. And I'd seen one NHL team in a game against a team from another league, but I'd never seen a league game. And Mike Foligno, not only did he play in that game, his third NHL game, but he scored his first NHL goal. He had an assist, and he had a fight. And you know what that means? Third game of his career, Gordie Howe hat trick. Right here in good old Edmonton. And he was greasy, but he was an easy player to like, even though he was on another team. Some of the greasy guys, no, I can't get behind him. But he was one of those guys. You'd say, "Oh, I'd love to have that guy on our team." And he used to do this jump when he scored a goal, and he would crouch down and leap up in the air. It was the weirdest, awkwardest looking thing, but it was just so. Just enthusiasm, right? I did what I wanted to do. Yahoo! I swear he'd try and click his heels together while he was doing it. But he was one of the stars of the first game in the history of NHL, official NHL game in the history of Edmonton, home game.
7 of those guys drafted that year scored more than 1,000 points in the NHL. I don't know if that's a record for a draft. I haven't gone through it, but I suspect it is. And
81 would be the only one that's close.
The interesting thing, Bruce, is there's an 8th guy who played his first NHL season that year, and Wayne Gretzky, who wasn't drafted because the Oilers protected him, and he never went in the NHL draft. So there's actually 8. Okay.
6. Yeah. In 81, that was the Paul Coffey draft. Sorry, no, 1980, that was the Yari Curry draft.
Mm-hmm.
And
high scoring era, of course.
And the Paul Coffey draft. Yeah, the 2 highest scores from the 80 draft. Paul Coffey, 1,531 points. Yari Curry, 1,398 points. Then Denny Savard, Larry Murphy, Bernie Nichols, future Oiler, and Steve Larmer, 6 of them. Pretty good.
The 79 draft, it's Messier, Bourque, Gartner, Goulet, Anderson, Hunter, and Prop with all more than 1,000 points.
2 Oilers on both lists. Incredible.
And that,
Barry
again, doesn't
Fraser
include Gretzky.
On a roll.
The best roll in the history of NHL drafting for about 3 or 4 years there. Now, Bruce, let's talk about 2 plays tonight that were controversial.
Sure.
One was McDavid popping Marcus Johansson with a shoulder, and Johansson went down and never came back to the game. And then there was Ryan Dirtman Hartman. I call it a slew foot. Other people say you can't call that a slew foot. Kicking the skates out from under Leon Draisaitl.
Skates out from under.
Yeah. And
not quite a slew foot. A slew foot.
What do you think of the?
I think first thing I said to my wife when I saw the replay is he's going to be paying a fine for that. And honestly, I hope Hartman that's all it is. No, McDavid.
Oh, McDavid.
Yeah. He just moved his elbow like Johansson came into him and he just started he moved it about an inch. Like he really didn't move it far. I'm shocked that Johansson took the contact as badly as he did, that he went down and stayed down while the play went around and buzzed around without him. And then he went off and he never came back into the game. So, they'll be looking at it. And I suspect we'll hear tomorrow that McDee's been fined $5,000. And I think he was sort of expecting contact and bracing himself, but, the action was he raised his elbow a little bit and he popped the other guy on the button.
He did. I thought it should have been a penalty. I'm not sure about a fine.
We'll see.
I mean, only because if the guy hadn't got up right away, there would be no fine. Yeah, but because he stayed down and maybe he's injured, maybe there is. But come on, how many times is there that kind of head contact in a game? It's constant. Guys getting smashed into the boards and shoulder checked, and there's a little bit of contact in the head. That much contact, because it wasn't a lot of contact to the head. It was a quick pop. Anyway, it did hurt the guy, and he went down. So I thought it was a penalty. The other one was definitely a penalty. It wasn't called either. Draisaitl gets his feet kicked out from under him by Ryan Hartman, who in the previous game he had done another dirty play where he went out of his way to hammer Evan Bouchard. He's a dirty hockey player.
And players like that,
players like that, I got no sympathy for the Wild. They have a player like that on their team. He's constantly doing stuff like that. If one of your guys gets taken out with a slightly dirty hit, well, turnabout is fair play if that's how you're going to play the game. And that was just a really dirty and dangerous play on Leon Draisaitl. He should definitely be fined. He won't, like, if the previous slew foot by Kempe wasn't on McDavid, wasn't a suspension. It should have been a suspension. It's ridiculous that it wasn't, in my view.
Fine. Yeah, I thought they'd fine him, and they did. But because
And,
they refs didn't call, if the refs had called it, it might have elevated the review process a little bit. Just one with Hartman, there was a perfect camera angle, the low one behind the net, looking along the ice behind the net, and you can see three individuals in the picture on the ice surface. You got Hartman kicking the feet out from under Draisaitl, clearly, obviously kicking the feet out from under. Leon going down hard, his helmet flying off. It's scary when you see stuff like that. And the other individual that you can see is the orange stripe on the referee's arm, right in the extreme foreground in front of the camera, looking at the exact same thing the camera's looking at. And I'm just going, what in the sweet are you looking at, ref, that you didn't see that? Like, it's so blatant. And it's like, well, it's 4-3 with 11 minutes left, and we better not affect the outcome of the game. Anyway, Oilers got away with some too, but that one, like, I just don't understand how the NHL referee could see that and not call it.
Yeah, pretty rough.
And if he didn't see it, what was he looking at? Because he was in great position to see it. Give him credit for being in good position.
Bruce, what do you make of the John Klingberg to the Oilers rumor?
Well, it's interesting. He was once upon a time a good puck-moving offensive D-man. Pretty good on the power play, which is not really a high need of the Oilers.
Nope.
And his career stats kind of show a guy with two careers. He had sort of good 5 years, and then he had another 5 years where he wasn't really even holding his own. Like, his pluses turned to minuses, and his stats totals went down. And then he got hurt, and then last year he came and he played in Toronto a bit, and then he got hurt again. And you wonder what's in the tank. I mean, in theory, the Klingberg of 7 years ago might make a great partner with Nurse, for instance, but I don't think that guy is this guy. There's talk of several teams being interested, and he does qualify for the Connor Brown style bonus, where because he was injured and missed such a large portion of last year, the teams are allowed to compensate him by way of a bonus, which of course goes against next year's cap and not this year. So that might show up in whatever contract he eventually does sign, but I sure wouldn't want to sign him to a Connor Brown style contract with, millions. Maybe if you can sweeten the pot with a couple $100,000 like they did with Perry, that's a relatively minor figure, but it'll be interesting to see where the bidding war goes. But to me, he's more 6'7" than top four anymore. So that puts him in the $1 million class. And if he's available, I mean, maybe he's an upgrade on Troy Stetcher.
Yeah.
And, or Josh Brown, or whoever they're using in the 6D spot. I will say, David, that Ty Emerson is definitely emerging as top five now.
Oh, yeah.
He's sort of every day. And that really stood out on Monday when they went with 7 guys and they split the 6-7 role between Brown and Stetcher. And Emerson played more than the two of them combined. And a couple things about Emerson. One is that he was on the ice in the last minute of play with the Oilers leading by 1 goal 2 games in a row. First when they were 4v6 in Chicago, and then last game defending a 1-0 lead against LA. And they had Emerson out there, and they had guys like Nurse and Kulak on the bench. And Bouchard, I think it was Emerson and Ekholm, who's a regular first pairing, and I guess they just think it's like a penalty kill, and it's an expanded penalty kill, 5v6. Let's use our PK. But he got those situations. And one other thing I noticed from him tonight, Emerson, besides the assist he got on that Californian, was an absolute burst of speed that I had no idea
Yeah,
he had in
getting
him.
back into the
When he
play.
got caught deep in the zone and he came flying back to get in the play, I went, wow, look at him go. And I had no idea. So speed in D-man is useful for just that reason. I mean, we've seen Nurse do it how many times where it looked like he was out of a play, and by the time it hit the blue line, he'd be back level with it or better. But for Emerson, that's the first time I've sort of seen plus speed. Is sort of caught my eye and went, wow, look at him go. So seen lots of positive arrows with that guy.
Yeah, once he's getting increasing confidence with the puck and making offensive plays, and with that skating, Bruce, he could be quite a useful player. And it's not out of the question he'll be in the top 4 at some time if they keep him, and they should keep him, and they probably want to keep him in the next few years. He could be in the second pairing. As you say, he's playing in key defensive minutes. And if his passing and offensive play picks up, why not? About Klingberg, I would say this, that if it's $1 million contract, why not? I mean, if he doesn't work out, you can send him to the minors. Now, he's probably going to get a no movement. Maybe he would get a no movement clause. I don't know. But excuse me, if he's your 7th D-man, it's a really low risk move, but it could be high reward. He's had this hip shaving thing operation. It sounded like what Sam Gagner had. Sam Gagner talked about how he hadn't felt so good in years coming back from that. And Sam Gagner, he played with speed and intensity last year and was a good player. Maybe Klingberg will have a little bit of a renaissance. We saw both Sheldon Surrey and Andre Sekera, who looked pretty much done by the time they left Edmonton. They both had good years, one good year each in Dallas after they left, and they recovered from injury. So there's a possibility that the Oilers could get some good use out of this guy. He is a right shot defenseman. Jason Strudwick has talked about how he thinks the best partner for Darnell Nurse is a puck mover.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me, that could be John Klingberg with Darnell Nurse. You don't lose your smarts. You don't lose your passing ability, really. Can he skate? Can he move? Can he move with the puck? Some people aren't too thrilled with his defense. I can't speak to that, but if the price is right and it's low, that I think it would be fantastic. I do think, though, my one question about it is the real need a big left shot defenseman who can play with Emerson on the third pairing, who can move the puck and defend really well? Is that maybe not the bigger need than bringing in John Klingberg? It's more of what they have. Let's say he works out, he'd be another smart player who can really move the puck, but isn't physical. So will that help you beat LA? Will that help you beat Florida? Will John Klingberg? It could. Really smart puck moving can make a big difference. You can dominate a game by controlling the puck.
Mm-hmm.
And you can beat physical teams that way. And this is how the Oilers are so dominant right now. They are passing the puck so well. They are the best puck moving version of the Oilers I've seen since the 1980s. And it's a fantastic team in that regard. And he would add to that. But maybe they need a different kind of player. And maybe they'll kind of back away. Maybe another team's going to want Klingberg more because of that. It'll come down to how much Klingberg wants to play, take a chance here in Edmonton. Could come down to that. So.
Well, he's playing to reestablish himself. Mm-hmm. And so he might be willing to, he's only going to get part of a season anyway, and he's already a fairly rich individual, I'd have to think.
Yeah.
And so he might sign a lowball thing and say, if I come in and, score 10 points in 15 games and then do okay in the playoffs, I'll be a hot commodity this summer. So, he might be playing the long game. 6'3", 190 pounds.
Yeah,
he's already 32 years old. And he's right shot, highly skilled.
Yeah. If he hadn't been injured, he'd still be a really good player, obviously. But the injuries, he's had 2 hip surgeries, and now this other hip operation, this thing that he's had.
Right.
So that's a lot of wear and tear on the old body. So good luck to him.
Well, that'll turn a 32-year-old into a 39-year-old in a quick hurry if you've got, a history of injuries and still dealing with some of the physical fallout from it. So it would be a gamble. It'll be interesting to follow. If Ken Holland was GM, I would bet he would get his man, because he had a history of when a famous name came on the market during the season, he'd get that guy, right?
Kane and Perry. Yeah.
Kane and Perry being the two obvious ones.
And then Duncan Keith and Mike Smith, like different circumstances, he had to make move, to get them. But yeah, he liked those big name old guys for sure.
Old guys, yeah.
Yeah, and they worked out, generally speaking, to some extent. I mean, I don't think any of them were a disaster. So and most of some of them have been pretty good. Mike Smith and Kane have had real great moments for the Oilers, and Corey Perry's had his moments, and so did Duncan Keith. So. Alrighty, Bruce.
Who had a good moment today?
Go ahead.
Ryan McLoud. He had a hat trick.
He'd not been scoring.
Yeah, I got 3 tonight, 8, 9, and 10 on the year now, which is pretty good for a checking center, which is what he is.
Yeah.
And his first career Hattie, and they beat Carolina, so it wasn't like they were playing the Little Sisters of the Poor.
That is a weird.
So good for him. I'm rooting for Ryan McLeod. I liked him here, and I have no reason to dislike him. It's not like he bailed on the team and went and signed somewhere else. He got traded.
You mean not like Holloway and Broberg?
Well, yeah, I mean not like that, where you can say, well, that guy decided to leave the team.
Yeah,
and you can hold a grudge or not. I really don't, but I hold less of a grudge against against Ryan McLeod, because he didn't decide to leave the team. He, team moved on from him, and they chose Adam Henrique over him, is my take on it.
Yeah, they're probably all fine young men, I don't really hold a grudge against any of them. All right, Bruce, next game's Colorado tomorrow night, 7:30.
Tomorrow night, yeah.
All right, good stuff. Bruce, we will talk then.
You bet.
Thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.